a way to test this or not. Let me see if I can see anything here.
Mine says live in the top left-hand corner.
Yeah. Let me see if I can play it here. It says waiting scheduled. Well, it might be live, might not be live. I have no idea. Let me see if I can see anything on the other side. I just want to make sure people could actually find us in the YouTube world. Would you say hello? Say hello, Alyssa.
Hello.
Alyssa's one of our newest team members here. No idea. Yeah, we are. I think we are live. I'll throw my hat on here. I might go my hair looks right now. So this is going to be a first. Yeah, I think they could. I think they can see you're in the corner there. It's like you see yourself there. I think.
No, I meant, can you tell if there's others?
Oh, I don't. I think I just joined myself just to see. So
yeah,
nobody's probably watching right now. So no.
Yeah, that
just started it.
Wondered too. Also, with the news of today, everybody's going to be on there.
Yeah, I'm just for bring in Sherry here. Sherry, do you want to? I don't have to join you to the stream if you don't want to, but I'm going to bring you in right now.
Fine. Let's go.
Yeah, I think we were all kind of shaken up by the news recently, what happened with Charlie Kirk, and I just heart goes out to him and his family and everyone that's been rocked by that today, because it's just that's something we saw coming, and for something I believe is just a good Christian person just out there willing to talk to the other side and talk to people and try to not bring violence to the situation. And it's just really sad to what's kind of transpired with that. It's not something that was, I saw happen today, of course. So
right, devastation for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm not, obviously it's not what we plan to talk about here today, but I think would be hard pressed for us not to mention that in the light of it just happening just so recently over the last couple of hours. So if you don't know, he's, a person that just, I felt like was always trying to just have a conversation with people, just in trying to, verbalize where our differences are and try to, meet in the middle somewhere. So not something that I'd want even on my worst enemy, let alone to someone that I found and respected. Was very articulate in his approach and seemed to be very open to hearing the other side and just, willing to listen and willing to learn. So like, I think we all are.
Right.
But, so today, this will be our first test of this, and maybe you'll be watching this on a restream, and maybe you're like, what are we talking about here? I thought we were talking about real estate and divorce, and that's what we're talking about. But obviously it's a very emotional thing as well too. And that's so much in life is dealing with the emotional part of it. And so I think today, if you're watching this probably likely on a restream, where's our first shot using restream today, just try it out. I'm Scotty. We're the Gifford Group, and with Alyssa is joining us, and shows Sherry. Unfortunately, a little upset right now, Sherry. If you want to, I can jump you off if you want. You don't have to stick on here. I can hide your camera here, so you don't have to.
Okay.
I can still hear you there. So if you're ready to come back, I can bring you back anytime. So just let me know. But so we're just, the goal tonight is to help people, maybe if, we did have someone reach out to us just today, as always, we're always trying to help people, make informed decisions about what they can do with all the real estate, especially in the light of going through a divorce. And so, like I say, I don't know if anyone will be joining us tonight, and this might be just a total, a show that we just kind of just talk about some of those common things that we see. And I think one of the questions we always hear first is, especially when like about the house stuff is like, can I keep the house? Should I keep the house during a divorce? And obviously, I think that question is very nuanced. And so when we talk to people, we always try to, meet them where they're at and try to allow them to, verbalize to us what their situation is like, and we walk through. A lot of people they already figured this out and they know that, but a lot of times they have that question, well, what does that look like if I can keep the house? And a lot of times we don't usually have a one way or another that we push people, but we always talk to them and say, hey, like, this is what we see that you could do, or maybe can do. We don't ever tell them what you should do, because that's not our role. I'm going to bring Alyssa in here too, and maybe I'll make you a little bit bigger here, and I want to get what's your take on, what do you think about this situation with people wanting to keep the house maybe when they shouldn't, or
Do I think they should or shouldn't keep the house?
yeah, what's your take on it when you were talking to, say, a client or someone like that? Like, what do you think about how would you
I would probably definitely recommend selling the marital home.
yeah, just from an emotional standpoint too, or
Emotional and financial, especially depending on the income of the person wanting to keep it. Definitely emotionally, but financially, obviously, if someone's trying to hold on to it for emotional reasons or not wanting to let it go, it could sure become a huge financial burden and not worth keeping that home.
yeah. And I think that's the thing. What we see a lot is people are trying to, they want to keep it for the kids, and they want to keep that, hey, we want to, keep the house because, it's very much, your house is your home, right? It's not just, it's a place where maybe you brought the kids home. Maybe it's a place where they go. Maybe it's a school zone that they're in. You just finally got them settled. And a lot of times, like, well, I'm going to be disrupting that. And obviously, in the ideal world, if one of you could keep the house, that makes sense potentially for to keep the house, to disrupt as little as possible. But that's not always the world we live in, where you can always just like not disrupt the household. And sometimes financially, like you say, it just makes more sense to sell the home. Hey, Amber's joining us. We're just talking. We're just
Just us.
just us for now, realistically, but we're kind of going through and just like talking some of the questions that I have here on the right side here, so forth. And we were just talking about the should you keep the house, and make sure it's not an emotional decision, and make sure it is a financial decision that you can make too, and know what that looks like. And I think that's one of the things that as we talk to over 300 plus couples that were going through divorce, that's one of the things that we've always tried to bring to the table is meeting them where they're at, but then obviously then help them walk through that decisions financially if they can, and what that looks like. Because a lot of times they think, oh, I'm just going to keep the current rate, right? I'm just going to keep, I just don't have to change anything in the mortgage, right? I'll just keep the same mortgage. Nothing's got to change on that, on financially, right? Like, I'll just keep paying. I can afford this current mortgage. And it's like, well, you probably need to, do something with the mortgage, because you got to buy them out of the house, right? You can't just keep them on the mortgage if they're divorcing, right? Because at the end of the day, you guys are separating. It's kind of like a business transaction at that point, right? Like, unfortunately, if your marriage is, got to the point where it's divorced, then we need to,
Well, if you keep them on it, there's a possibility they could call you every single month on the first and be like, so did you make that payment? What's going on? I saw there was a late. And you're still connected at the end of the day with somebody that you don't necessarily want to be.
Yeah, if you're going through divorce, usually there was some kind of maybe trust loss there, right? Like, not always, but a lot of times there's a reason that you guys aren't, being together anymore. So it's like, hey, like, and I'll just speak for myself here in this case, like, post divorce, I was like, hey, we need to get everything kind of separated, right? Like, hey, like, you keep the house, but I went off the mortgage and I went off the deed, right? And I thought that was a safe play. And I think that's what we recommend to, all of our clients. If you can, not everyone chooses to do that or wants to do that, but that's kind of our recommendation, because that's what most attorneys would recommend as well too. We're not attorneys, but they would say, hey, we think you should try to divide the estate, 50-50, or in Texas, it's a fair and just division that they usually try to get, right? So,
Does it feel fair and just always?
Well, another thing I was going to say too is I don't think there's anything, if you can't financially afford to hold on to it, the positive side of it is to go somewhere fresh and start new memories.
True.
If you have to go start over, to me, that's worth, if you can't afford to stay and you're wanting to, that would be at least a positive to focus on.
Yeah, no, I think, and sometimes and that's, one of our taglines why we like it so much, opening doors to new beginnings, because I think it gives you an opportunity to have a fresh start, right? Not always can you do that in the same home, right? So
I think too, that's a very healthy perspective that you said. And a lot of people in the beginning can't see the big picture because all they think as a mom is I brought my baby home to this house, or I built this house, or this is where my kids grew up and they played. And so they have this emotional attachment to it. So they can't let it go, when really your house is not the walls, it's the people who you're with. And I have several clients that say too, it feels toxic in here. I'm like, you really want to continue this toxicity? It feels that way because it's full of emotion and dragging you down, and so that it is a very healthy comment to make about starting fresh somewhere else. I think when I bought my house, I didn't choose to be bought out. I was told I was being bought out. And I went home and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do that. I'm getting this money and that money, and I'm going to get a job. I can afford it. So I went back the next day or whatever. We had the meeting and they were like, well, it's too late. Already done. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And they were like, we've already decided. And I'm like, who decided? And I was like, going forward, you tell me when something is yes, no, maybe. And if it's going to be final, I got to know right then. So, and then it became exciting to me. Well, I don't really want this house anyway. I want something that's mine on my own. I want to do it by myself, and I'm going to create memories and do everything that I want to do. So,
yeah. And I think, yeah, I agree with you. It's sometimes and I was planning on buying post-divorce too initially, and I thought too, hey, it could be exciting. I actually ended up renting for what I thought was going to be a few months, ended up being a few years before I met this lovely lady to my right now, and we decided to buy our house together. But it was kind of freeing to take a step back, not to have the big house, financially too. So I always talk about that when I speak to clients one-on-one. It's sometimes as we go through this big emotional thing with a divorce and trying to figure out who we are again, not having the big financial stress of the big house with the big property and big maintenance and big, mortgage, maybe it is freeing and a peace of mind that you can get that you need during this time of so much turmoil. So that's one of the things that we always like to bring, that I always mention. So, yeah, this is everybody here on the team. So Sherry's there. She's hanging out. We can hear you, Sherry.
Devastated. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can jump off anytime, Sherry. I just wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, you go. We'll talk to you soon. Sherry's just upset about everything that happened in the news today. So she, like I said, we talked about it for a second when we first joined the stream. So we just thought it would be best that we mentioned that, and our hearts go out to, like I say, it's not the reason we're streaming today because of this, but it's something that we have to mention. And Charlie Kirk unfortunately being shot, and just a
it's awful.
It's an awful thing. So.
Know it.
So what we're sticking to here is we're kind of going on this list here. So obviously it's the emotional thing, and it's the biggest, one of the biggest things we talk about from the financial standpoint, though, is hey, we're going from the 2 households down to one income right now. So and you might have 2 households again. So now you hopefully have 1 income for each new household, but you're doubling your costs in a way, right? Going from we're 2 together, we got 1 household, and now we're going to be doubling that household cost, either 2 houses post divorce, and back down one income. So, we just need to make sure that your income is, if you're going to be keeping the house or buying a new one, that your income is high enough, and make sure, during this time of divorce, sometimes people forget about, hey, I forget about the bills. And so they don't make their mortgage payment or their car payment or those other things. All of those can hurt you financially. But the number one thing that me and Amber have noticed when we're talking to clients, the worst thing you can do during divorce is not pay your current mortgage, right? Because if you have a 30-day late during the divorce, then it could stop you from qualifying for a new mortgage for the next 12 months, right? So, and one 30-day late can hurt if you have like a 700 credit score, it'll drop you down to 600. So that's going to hurt you from getting a rate, getting qualified. It's just going to make it harder. So even if everything is else falling apart, like make sure the mortgage is getting paid. If the, other things, like you can always call up your, utility company, call up the mortgage company, talk to them. If you're going to have a, late payment, talk to them. They'll work with you a little bit versus just not paying or not communicating to them. So sorry, our dogs. Perfect time.
What just happened with that last client? He did.
Yeah. So we've had a client recently. Unfortunately, he had to. Even took a forbearance can hurt you, right? And if you don't, a lot of times when people take a forbearance, think, okay, this is great. Like I cannot pay this, but then usually what happens is it just stacks back up. Those payments, they don't just disappear. They either come lump sum due, and a lot of people, okay, well, if you couldn't make $3,000 a month, how are you going to make, 4 months later, a $12,000 a month payment all of a sudden, right? So unless you have a plan in place to take that forbearance, that's probably not a good plan at all. Just to say, hey, I'm going to do the forbearance in the short term, right? So you need to really have a game plan. I'd rather see you late on a car payment, to be honest, or especially a credit card or something else, student loans. That's going to hurt you, but it's not going to be as devastating to the, to everything else as the score is to your mortgage payment, right? So your mortgage is going to be if you're looking to keep a house at any time in the next couple of years, make sure your mortgage is getting paid during the divorce process. Don't just forget about that. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about that. Or I'm going through divorce, so I need to worry about that. Like it's going to be one of those big things.
Yeah, that's super important. Paying your bills.
So let's talk about that. One of the things, so one thing that we specifically, a lot of people come to us for, and they find us, and we, one things that we try to help with is like determining, well, how much of the house, if I'm going to be buying out Amber of our home, well, how much do I need a buyer out for, right? And so that's one of the things that we usually walk people through. They might check out our divorce buyout calculator on our website. A lot of people find us through that thing because they're looking on webs and trying to figure it out. And we've built a very extensive one, I believe, on our website, which I think is kind of
you did.
Yeah, well, I did. What I think is kind of helpful for people to figure out, like, hey, is this something that, how do we determine that? And so what the calculator basically does, first you got to get a good estimate for your value of the home, and what a lot of people tell us the value wise, how do they determine their value? Amber?
How do they determine your value?
Yeah, the house. How do they?
They get a realtor.
A realtor is one way to do that. Yeah,
Get a realtor to give them a CMA.
They get a realtor to give them a CMA.
Not an appraisal.
A lot of times what I was going to say is they just look on the tax records. They look up Zillow, right? And they go, oh, let's use that number.
We've heard that a lot lately.
I've even heard attorneys say that.
Yeah.
I've heard attorneys say, oh, just check the tax records. And
Tax records are probably low. Zillow is usually off some. It's a roundabout. I think they should bump it if they're going to do that. It should be like a rule of thumb.
I think it gives you a starting point to look. If you looked at any of those numbers, like, hey, it's not like, okay, at least at some point we have somebody going, hey, like, okay, you're given a number, but like what we would like to see in the case of, if you're selling the home, we want you to probably talk to a local realtor that is going to be, knows your market, and be like, hey, I can help provide a value for your home, right? By looking at what has sold in the last, 30, 60,
6 months.
3 months, 6 months kind of thing, time frame. Been keeping up with the market, knowing what you're, and then looking at your home and size and comparables to see what your home would sell for, hopefully, right? Because if you're going to be selling it, there's no point of ordering an appraisal.
No, I don't think people do that. What a waste of money.
They order the appraisal as part of the divorce, right? Like, hey, the attorney told me to order appraisal because I'm getting divorced. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Well, we're selling the house. Well, why'd you do that? Well, because the market's going to tell you what the home is worth, not the appraiser. We've had a client that told us, oh, the home's worth, the appraiser said it was worth 1.1 million. We're like, okay, I think that's a little high, but that didn't work out too well. You try to put it on the market for 1.1 and
Pretty sure right.
just to divide the value.
Yes, I barely remember the problem. I think he did. Yeah, paying that money for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, so there's times we do recommend ordering an appraisal, and those are going to be when you are, looking to buy out your spouse, right? Like, hey, I want to buy, like me and Amber say we're getting a divorce, and I'm like, hey, I want to buy her out. Well, I need to know how much the current home is worth. Not just from my perspective, we can use that for a division of property, but then also like from a standpoint of like, hey, the bank is going to order this. So then what I would want you to do is talk to your lender. And I'm a lender. If you're going through divorce, and we kind of specialize in, but if you're like, talk to your lender and be like, hey, I need to order an appraisal. I need to make sure I'm get qualified because I'm looking to keep this house. So I need to make sure that I can afford to keep this mortgage, buy her out of whatever equity we ultimately decide on, but also make sure I can afford it. So make sure my credit's okay, make sure my income's there, and then make sure that I can buy her out of that equity. So then if I'm going to be borrowing money from a bank or from a mortgage loan officer, we're going to want to know what the home's worth, and we're not going to want to take, the county's appraisal. We're going to order the lender is going to order their own appraiser.
Yeah.
And they're going to go out to the house. It's going to be a third party. It's going to be non-biased to this, community property thing. And they're not going to care. Like if we're fighting over here, we're going to go look at the house, right, and provide an unbiased opinion, which could be used as a division of the property for assets. So you can be a twofer versus just, ordering it. Don't order yourself is the point, right? If you're going to be going through divorce, and don't be ordering the appraisal yourself.
No, agree.
Yeah.
Oh.
We're live right now.
Is it recorded?
Yeah, it's going to be recorded. Yeah. Why do you keep whispering? They can hear you. It's like they can't hear you if you whisper.
This day.
Whoever's, it's going to be, so like, there might not be a lot of people right now, but there will be people that I want or who could watch it later again. So any person can watch this again later. So
this is for you.
Yeah. So if you're watching it right now and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? So
how do you buy your spouse owelty lien? Ooh. You're talking about owelty lien?
Well, I was going to say that's one of the tools we talk about. The owelty lien it's one of the tools we use and allows you to tap more equity if you are going through divorce, right? Why are you laughing over here? This is like a fun and game show over here. Ooh.
Gifford Group is all fun and games and serious when you got to be.
We always tell people you're going to have a good time. It's not a question. You just are. You are having a good time.
Have a good time.
What does that look for?
Oh no, it's been a long day.
It has been a long day. But so like back to the owelty lien. So it is a tool that we use in Texas a lot if you're going to be buying out your spouse. And so because a lot of times you talk to a loan officer going through divorce, they're going to tell you, okay, well, the most you can pull your home. And this is what I was told when I was going through my divorce was, well, if you want to tap equity, well, the most you can pull out your home if you're not going to sell it is going to be the cash out. And the problem in Texas, specifically in Texas, but in a lot of other states too, you're going to be limited to 80% loan to value. So just a simple example, if we own a $100,000 home, the largest loan we could get would be $80,000, which is pretty good. We can tap a lot of the home's equity, but unfortunately we're going to leave that other 20%, the other $20,000, which wouldn't be a lot of money. But if we bump that to, a higher number, if it's $1 million home, and all of a sudden we're leaving $200,000 of equity in the home, that's going to be a lot of money we're just leaving in the house that we're not able to tap or utilize. And so what the owelty lien allows you to do is actually tap up to 95% is what a number I usually kind of like to use. We can technically go up to 96.5. If you're doing FHA kind of stuff, and then with, rolling in the FHA funding fee there, so you can go a little bit higher. But, I like to stick with the 95% as far as like a value that you could use. And that 95, then what's interesting is that 95% loan to value is pretty close to if you were going to sell the home, time you take in your realtor fees and your closing cost, it's pretty close to, because the loan's going to have some fees as well too. It ends up being close to around that 8.5% is kind of left in the home or you kind of lose when you sell the home. So like looking at the idea, like if you sell the home, you're losing say 8.5% time all typical realtor fees and typical closing cost fees associated with selling. If you do the 95% buyout and you have some closing costs for the loan, that number of fees is very similar in a lot of ways. So you're kind of like, hey, I can still give you the same amount of equity if we sold. I could just do the buyout instead of having to do the, sell the home and then split the equity. That way we can actually just, I could just buy you out.
And you can pay bills.
Well, yeah. And then the good thing is too, is like during that we could use what, a little secret thing we like to help clients with is like, if we do need to pay off some other bills as part of this divorce, maybe there's a joint credit card. Maybe there's a car.
It lowers the DTI for the person qualifying, so then they can actually afford to keep the house because maybe they couldn't with the car note on there.
Mm-hmm.
You can pay the attorneys. Mm-hmm. Everything has to be paid directly to the vendor, though, right?
Yeah, it can't be money back to you because if the money's coming back to you, well, then it would be considered a cash out. So sometimes we have clients that like, hey, I just do need to do the cash out because I want to get some of that money and some of the home's equity as well because there's maybe stuff you need to do to the home or whatever. But if it's bills that you're already, have out there, you can go ahead and pay those other bills as part of it. Because like say, like if I had a car that we were both on the car payment, maybe I don't want to be on the car payment with her post divorce. So I want that car to be paid off as part of the buyout, and we can do that.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, there's definitely tools that, and that's one of the secrets that, and if you look at the calculator, the divorce buyout calculator on the giffordgroup.net, that calculator will be there and then allows you to, kind of see how much equity you can tap if you did the 80% or the 95%. And if you put in your, email there, it'll return the results to you, but it also will, allow you, hey, kind of look at, you can put in some simple information of like, what do I make and do I have any other debts? And it'll kind of tell you like how much you need to make sure you can afford that payment. If you put your tax and insurances in there as well too. So like it is kind of like a tool if you really utilize it to the max. Usually I'll actually use that tool a lot when I'm talking to clients on the phone if it's our first call. And I'm like, hey, this is kind of what it looks like post-divorce for the buyout, right? So I built that tool for myself and I use it, but I also just made it public facing. So if somebody wants to use it, they can play around with it. Obviously, if you have any questions, give us a call. We'll go through it. So, Alyssa, is there anything you want to add in there?
Not right now.
Amber?
I think it's a cool thing. I think the owelty lien is awesome, especially, you obviously can't keep a house if you don't have income, but, and a lot of moms do work. So if for a mom, it's like, oh, I want to keep this house and you have the ability and you can pay off debt and lower your DTI. Why wouldn't you do it if it's affordable? I think we just get a little emotional about it sometimes. And we sometimes bite off more than we can chew, rather than looking at the financial piece, which is where you need a very good numbers person to help you decipher what the big picture looks like. Because he not only just looks at like what the owelty is, but he looks at like, do you really want to do this? And we don't ever judge our clients. Hey, you want to keep it? Then okay, we'll find a way. But like, it's probably not in your best interest necessarily, but it's your call.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so. And touching on the fact of income, like one of the things that we talk about post-divorce, especially if you have children, is there going to be child support, right? And we can use your child support income to help you qualify to keep the house or to buy the new house. The one thing that you need to be aware of is we need to make sure that you have been receiving those child support payments before we can actually use them. So one of those things that we kind of look at is like, if you're going to be buying out as part of the divorce decree, like say, hey, I'm going to be buying out Amber and I'm going to be paying her child support. Well, now it counts as a debt to me because I'm paying it to her. But if she's receiving child support and she's going to buy another home, and now she can use that as income for her to buy the next house. So, but she does need to be.
Which I did do that.
Yeah. And she needs to be receiving it for 6 months before, from a mortgage perspective, because we got to make sure it's consistently coming in kind of thing. And
so get it. Your kids are little, not big. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, maybe so, but
we're not the kids of divorce.
No, but one of the
sorry.
No.
Is it 18?
Well, so it's also going to be 3+ years. Was the other thing I was going to say. So the idea that like it can't just start and then have it for 1 year and then use it. It's got to have a 3+ year time frame.
My cool experience was, even though I was still living in the marital home, he was able to write me a check made out to my name, and that was considered my allowance, which was considered child support during the time I was in the home until the divorce was finalized. So they were able to count that money, which was really, really cool.
Linus wants to say hi. Hey, Linus, say hi.
He's
Say hi.
gonna get a divorce later.
Mr. One Ball himself.
Scotty Gifford.
Anyway, yeah. So child support is a big thing about going through divorce, and it's obviously something you need to talk to your attorney. We did, in Texas, we did make a child support calculator that's on our website that matches the OAG, the Office Attorney General, and so you can put it in there. I just built it because I like things being simpler versus theirs was kind of like 5-step process. So like, can I make this simpler? Can I make it like one step? Can we just put the number in there and it just gives me the answer? And I like that way better than click and enter, click and enter, click and enter, click and enter kind of thing. But it does. I've checked it. It's maths out the same. So
yeah, it's the same.
And the other thing cool with the child support calculator I built, I actually put a total, which I don't say this a lot, but I so say you have a kid that's 10 and you can calculate, hey, you're going to pay child support of, say $1,000 a month. And or obviously the number probably won't be that round, but it'll be like, okay, for the next 8 years, you're going to get that support till they turn 18 or till they graduate. Right. So then it tells you the lifetime expected income as far as child support. Cause we've had clients go, hey, well, I'm not going to pay child support, but I'm gonna give her extra money up front, or vice versa. Right. From a lending perspective, I would say it'd be smarter to take the child support for the, multiple years, because you can actually use that for income, for qualifications, for lending purposes. But from sometimes if it's only like maybe only going to be less than the 3 years anyways, you can see, well, how much money is that total? Instead of maybe paying it over time, maybe you just take the extra equity out of the home where you get it guaranteed versus like, well, I don't know, they haven't been very supportive as far as like any income now. I don't expect them to make those payments later on because I don't trust them. So I can take that. How much does that payments equal out over the next number of years, right? So kind of a cool thing too. But for lending, always is about documentation.
Lenders always need that.
Always. It's
like,
not
you
me.
just give us money.
It's not just me. Everyone's. I need documentation. Okay. All right. So what happens if you don't get your name off the mortgage? So it's a question. It's actually probably one of our most popular videos. You can, but you need more documentation.
So if we were divorcing.
We're divorcing. No.
And my is on this mortgage, but you're keeping the house and paying it. Can I go buy another house?
Yes, you can, but you're going to need documentation for the past year, at least probably 1 year, that I've been paying it, that you haven't been paying it, and then I could say, I'll speak for us. I won't speak for all the lenders, but I'll speak for our lending company. We can exclude that mortgage debt that is in her name as long as she's not paying it. But it's got to be a year plus, right?
Oh,
yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be a whole year. It can't just be like, oh, well, they've been paying it for 2 months and then they missed the payment. Well, then you're going to be liable. It's going to mess up your credit still. So even if I've been paying it for a year and then 6 months later I quit paying it, then it's still going to affect your credit because you're still on the mortgage. So that's one of those things we don't recommend you staying on the mortgage. Dog, stop it! Look at my foot. What you get with live streams, you don't get the redos.
It's like stuffed animals.
Get the real life.
I didn't think we had to wait a whole year though.
Yeah, because we need to make sure that you're actually not paying it, right?
Then why do some lenders just say no in general?
Well, because they're going to pull your credit and see it's on there and go, well, you're still on there. Yeah, it's still in your name.
Special warranty, you still have
a special warranty. So that's going to, okay, you're just opening up a whole can of worms there. Special warranty deed is about ownership title, right? Not about the mortgage. Those are two different things. Those are two different hands.
But if it says they're not a responsible party,
if it messes up your credit and it's not paid, well, then maybe you are responsible. The mortgage company doesn't care that you signed away your rights to the property. They don't care. You signed the deed that says, in Texas, you actually sign
Yeah.
the deed that says, "Hey, I'm going to pay this back to you, and if I don't, then you can come take this house." Right. So that's in Texas. We use the deed of trust to ensure that the home is taken care of. Says you're going to pay the taxes. Says you're going to pay the insurance. You're going to keep it insured, right? Because they lent you money and they don't want you to just default on them or just not, or the house burns down. They're just out of money. House burns down.
Loan officer got on here and goes, "That's not true. My company can do it."
Less than? I would be surprised. I really would be.
So they're liars.
Maybe. I would say maybe you're misremembering.
Misremembering.
It's my favorite quote. So instead of calling someone a liar in the face.
Yeah. Very interesting.
But so yeah, I think so keeping. So you brought up the discussion about mortgage versus deed and versus ownership, right? So like you could be. We have people that are have to have what's called a non-occupied co-borrower, right? Like so they're helping qualification. So like say Amber wants to buy a house. We got a divorce and she wants to buy a house. And she can't afford to buy the pretty house that she wants. Well, she can add her, her mom, right, or somebody that hopefully makes good income and doesn't have any debts, right, or very little debts, or from a mortgage qualification, actually bringing in income with not a lot of less debts than income, so it can actually help the ratios to help her qualify. So she could be, say, her mom could be on the mortgage with her. They would both be on the mortgage, just like we were in the mortgage previously, right? And now the mom might not take ownership of that property and definitely won't be living at the property, but she's a non-occupied co-borrower. So she's not living in the home, but she's borrowing from a borrowing perspective. She's saying, "Hey, I'll pay if Amber doesn't pay," basically. So she's pledging her credit in assets to make sure that mortgage is going to get paid on time. So that if Amber doesn't pay, I can come after her mom too. So I think a lot of people, when you co-sign for debt for somebody like your cousin Jimmy says, "Hey, I was going to go buy this car over here. Can you co-sign for me?" And you go, "Well, probably if he needs a co-signer, that's probably a sign of two things. One, he either doesn't have any credit and he just hasn't built the credit, or he hasn't been paying people back, and all of a sudden you're going to be holding the boat, and they're going to be some calling up Jimmy first and call up you first and go, 'Hey, I needed my money.'"
Or you have the person like bugging you every first of the month. Did you make that payment? Now you have your mom bugging you.
Now you got your mom bugging you because I'm sure some people have some great relationships with their parents and can trust that. I've had a lot of borrowers add parents onto the mortgage, and that's fine. You just need to always make sure that everyone's aware of what the liability that they're signing up for, as far as that goes. So.
Timing matters. Lenders need documentation. We did that one. Are we the next one?
We talked about if your ex doesn't pay, it can affect your credit score. Maybe this one.
You can also go back and do what?
This one? Wow. Oh, okay. Can I do a case study? No? Q&A? Anybody got any questions up there? I don't see any questions.
I don't see any questions.
Join our panel. Come on, people. Ask questions. Or we might be on Facebook too. I don't know if I haven't seen Facebook here. You check Facebook?
Yeah. Oh, look. That seems really unprofessional, but okay.
What? You're unprofessional.
I mean, we're not, but how do you know if we're on?
Could be me. Search me. You don't know how to look.
Dull silence isn't good.
Dull silence isn't good. So
I don't know.
If
Oh, look, it says live.
Yeah, there I am live. So I don't know where people are coming from. You can see people pop up here on the it's just me out there probably.
Can you tell we're new at this?
Why do you keep making fun of it? Everyone's got to start somewhere.
It's true. No, we're very informative. What else would you like to know?
Well, there's nobody here, so we just have to talk right now.
Oh, okay.
So if you have, you can reach out to beautiful Amber over here, and she's happy to take your call anytime, any day.
No, that's really not true. If you're an unknown number, I won't answer.
She won't answer. So leave a message. Always leave a message for Amber. Obviously, me too. If you want to actually get us on the phone.
Then I'll add your number and then I'll answer you.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of clients that actually do reach out to us, via email, or they download some of the resources on our website, use some of the tools, and we'll maybe, hopefully, we always try to add value. So we're trying to help people, and I know sometimes it's hard to reach out and actually want to seek help from people you don't know, and so that's why we always are trying to put out the videos and the tools, because we were trying to be a resource for people. It's really a part of the hearts.
When you're going through a divorce or contemplating divorce, put your head in the sand initially because you don't know. I remember feeling like, wait, what? Which way? In this? And then if there's kids and then there's assets and then they don't know you're thinking about it, like it's just easier. So you think to put your head in the sand, but we want to take everybody's heads out of the sand and we want everyone to be educated so they can make informed decisions. That's really our goal.
Yeah.
We want people to be smart about their choices so they know, because sometimes you get thrown a choice and they're like, this is what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, I am.
Yeah. Well, like for me, like when I thought, hey, this choice, like what kind of went to it eyes wide open. I'm very much like, I want to know like what this looks like, but I still didn't know what I didn't know. Right. And so that's the most dangerous point of any discussion.
Would you have done a cash out like you did?
No.
No, I would go back to court and actually ask for that. Just kidding.
I don't care what you're saying right now. But I would definitely, I would have done things a little differently. I would have made some different decisions, and I think that's. Why don't you grab one of those books over there? One thing I want to talk about here, like one of the things that would have done differently, I would have reached out to somebody besides a family law attorney. Not that they don't have their spot in this, or they don't add value to this. They definitely do, and you definitely need an attorney if you're going through divorce to help you make sure that you're protected. We would never say you don't need an attorney, but I think you need more than an attorney. I think is my point here in saying like the attorney doesn't know anything about the mortgages. They're not going to be, and I think this is the one thing I've learned from a lot of, they don't know what they don't know either. So they're not your therapist. They're not your realtor. They don't know what the market's going to do or not going to do. They're not your loan officer. They can't help you, buy your spouse. The attorney's not going to go, oh, well, let me lend you $200,000 so you can buy your spouse. They're not going to do that.
They're there for the transactional part only.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Their job is to help you get divorced. And that's, there's a lot to.
They have opinions though on all this, just so you know. I know.
Uninformed opinions, right? Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I mean, I think that's the thing you have to remember is they, in my opinion, go through all the steps and then they should offer you your options of what you want.
Yeah, I think
not tell you necessarily.
I think that's that's the big thing is like what are your options right now, right? Like and so what are we at right here? Go you talk. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up here. What do you mean? Well, one of the things I was going to show right here is our book. I'll cover my face here. Like that makes me look better. No, and the reason we wrote our book was we were talking about like helping people and not knowing what they don't know. And so me and Amber wrote this book together. It's actually both of our stories from obviously a man's perspective and a woman's perspective. And obviously we didn't know each other at the time, but we went back and wrote our book.
Well, we knew each other at the time we wrote the book.
Well, of our divorces was what I was saying. We didn't know each other at the time of our divorces. We knew each other when we wrote the book.
But it is our stories, mirror image, like our feelings. Our stories are different, but we were thinking and kind of sometimes feeling the same and questioning things. But we should say that the intention of the book was not to be what it is. Our intentions of the book were to be a educational tool about real estate and divorce. However, I woke up one day and I went, I can't do this. And he was like, why? And I said, because. I said, it's boring. Number one, I don't do boring. And I was like, number two, it needs to be given the glory back to God and how he helped us through such a situation. And that's really what it's about. Praying for your marriage, whatever, praying for your situation. It's helping you see through something that's horrific. And I think it helps to have some other, well, we believe in God, but some other belief to help you see through, and talking to people who understand, who've been walking in your shoes before.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, we didn't write this book to make money off of it. We've given away probably more books than we've sold, just because when we meet clients, and I'll email them the book if we can't meet them face to face. But we just trying to be helpful and hopefully that they get something out of our story that helps them navigate their road and their journey. So that's really what it's about and why we wrote this book. So you can always check out our website on that and figure out what it is on there. And if you need a copy, can't afford a copy, we'll be happy to send you a copy on that. So
that one. What do you think is harder for people going through divorce?
That's kind of where we started the discussion here. Like, what do you think is harder for people going through divorce? Qualifying to keep the house or emotionally letting go of it?
Both.
Wow. Well, I think it starts with the emotional, and then it's
Sure.
the other one. Yeah, it starts with the emotional piece.
So one thing that's interesting, like we've talked to a lot of people, and one of the things that I always thought was interesting was like most people, and even as we think about it, like most people contemplate divorce for over a year before it actually pull the trigger. I mean, obviously there's some people probably do it quicker, and some people probably do it slower, and there's people who have been separated for longer than that. But overall, like the average seems to be that it's not something that people just make a snap decision one day and wake up and go, hey, I mean, you burnt my toast, I'm divorcing you, right?
I'm out.
Yeah, it's not usually a snap decision. Usually not one thing that usually sets it off. And sometimes it is one thing that's like, okay, we're done, right? Cheating, sometimes like lying for years and stuff like that can lead to it. But a lot of times, usually it's the slow separation, building up walls, and and then there's some resentment gets brought in there, and but it's definitely an emotional thing you have to deal with as far as like, and then you can't like, hey, can I just keep this?
It's really, I mean, it's not the last piece, but I think everybody initially is like, oh, I'm going to keep my house. And then they get their attorney, and then they realize that this really looks like, and then the attorney brings them down a few notches. Or like, well, you don't have a job. Well, I'm a spousal. I'm going to have this. It doesn't matter. They don't realize that they can't qualify. I think that's probably the number one thing. Like, people don't realize you still have to qualify. Mm-hmm. Like, even if it's refinancing into your own name, you can't just give somebody the house that's paid off. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of cases where maybe the house is paid off, and that works out. We've had a couple of people. So I talked about this in a video that we did before, but like really you have 4 options for the house, right? And we'll cover them maybe quickly here. One of them, hey, we're selling the home, splitting the equity, or splitting however we want to split it, right? Maybe it's not 50-50, maybe 60-40, whatever that looks like, but you're selling the home. Number 2 is like, we're looking at doing a cash out / buyout, right? Like, hey, we're looking at the idea of like, one of them is going to be buying out the other at some level. Maybe it's not a full, I think some people get the idea that you don't have to count the current mortgage or count the current, you got to figure out the current equity. So that's what the calculator's there for. And we recommend usually doing a rate and term refi or buyout versus doing a cash out if you can. Obviously, sometimes clients cash out's the best play to go. So we always say, don't just push one or the other, but look at what's usually best for them. And number 3 is like trying to do an assumption. Some people, and I have a whole blog on this. We have probably video on this too about trying to do an assumption. So we're not going to refinance. But the problem with trying to do the assumption,
it takes a long time.
Well, you got to have it. You got to be divorced already. You got to know how much money you are going to give or whatever, and you got to figure out a way. If you are passing along equity, how are you doing that, right? So, like, assuming if there's not a lot of equity in the home, maybe that's doable or viable option for you. But a lot of times, if you're there's trying to give her $50,000, $60,000, well, assumption no money's going to be transitioning out of the home. There can be no
you can't pay any debt off. You can't. Yeah, there's no cash.
Yeah, and then the 4th thing would be like, okay, well, which we never recommend, but some people have done it, and we've seen some attorneys push it. Is like, hey, you're trying to we're just going to do nothing. just gonna just kick the can. Like we're not gonna change anyone on the mortgage. We're not gonna take anyone on the deed. We're just gonna maybe write up some paperwork that says, well, if you don't pay, then you're responsible. Blah blah blah. But all that does is just bring it back to court later is what we've seen for that.
Yeah. So
And then we get those phone calls like, hey, well, what can I do? She's not paying the mortgage. We're like, take her to court.
that's a nightmare too.
Yeah. Oh, or pay the mortgage that you're not living in. You keep paying the mortgage for the house because she now you moved out and she's still on the mortgage.
The cleanest sweep is to sell and buy something else or rent until you can afford to buy. This is the cleanest break. You want a quick break? That's the best way to do it. Get over the fact that your kids were brought home there and all these other things. You have to. It's not about you anymore. And but the kids don't go, oh, this is the house you brought me home in. I don't want to leave, but they don't want to leave their friends. But sometimes change is good.
Kids are more resilient than adults.
Oh, 100%. I remember when my kids had to move in with their dad and he had a temporary apartment. They thought it was the coolest thing ever. It has a balcony. I'm like, wow. Do you play out there? Yeah, it's so neat. I have to share a room, but it's okay. It has a balcony.
Yeah.
Like they don't think that much of it like we do. We're the ones with the.
Well, I think kids like to change too, right? I mean,
sometimes they do, especially if you have like in a real toxic house. Like it's, they may not recognize it then, but they'll recognize it after it's not that way. And like, wow, it feels so much calmer around here. I think my kids said that too. There's not as much yelling going on.
mm-hmm.
They were little too, so it's never fun. It's never
what you want.
It's awful. It's awful. But there are ways to make it easier if you have the right trusted partners that you work with.
Agree always. So I haven't had Amber on. She's still here, people. If you haven't been watching, if you haven't seen Amber,
the Scotty show.
I feel like lately it's been the Scotty show. But see, Amber always brings in the sound effects that I don't usually have on the shows, and I usually, if you watch any of my videos or at all, and you get all the way to the end, you usually get a little bit of like a little extra. Sometimes I do. You got to stick around to the very end, kind of like it's like you ever seen the Marvel movies, right? And it's like you get that little the clip after the credits roll.
Like a whole.
I probably have a whole
YouTube of just me doing stuff.
Just making random noises. Like Lightning McQueen over here, right? So here's a good one right here. We're getting pretty close to wrapping this up here, but talking about, do you want to be? You got the house, but you got no cash.
Ooh, no, I'd rather have cash. Cash makes me feel safer.
Yeah, because I think
it's all in the house. How are you going to get it out? What happens if something happens and you need it and you can't?
Plus, you're paying the mortgage on top of it. Yeah,
you're paying for something
scary.
And then you're cash poor.
I don't want to be cash poor, especially with kids. It's scary.
So here's a scary statistic. Like most people can't come up with $1,000 for emergency right in the first place. That's just the world we live in today. A lot of times we're barely making it by, and you're going through divorce. Then you're hiring an attorney. You're paying your $3,000 to $6,000 retainers. Maybe they're hiring an attorney too. Now you're paying another $6,000. Okay, so now not only are we've used up a bunch of money probably paying these attorneys to help us get this divorce, and now I'm supposed to be buying out my spouse, and I got to pay this the attorneys on top of that, and now I'm doubling. Yeah, doubling the two households. We got 2 power bills, 2 electric bills, 2 water bills, and now I'm going down. We had the joint income, and now we're going back to one income.
I'll just get a one.
Yeah, so I think a lot of times that's where they come to back. Hey, it might be safer to sell a home if you do have a lot of equity in the home, and it's going to be hard for one of you to buy out the other spouse. It is probably the safer thing to probably get you both some money. You can always, and here's the thing too, like when you buy the new house, you can, if you get a big lump of money, right, you can always choose to just put down the 5% or 3.5% again to purchase again on the new house, and then keep some of your cash. That's kind of what we recommend to a lot of our clients, especially going through divorce. It's like, hey, if you are getting a big lump sum, put a bunch of that away for emergency funds, because now you don't have that extra income for someone else. Like, hey, in case you lose your job or something happens to you medically, now it's going to be more on you. You don't have the other person to help support you during those little rough patches or downtimes that can happen. We don't know if if you work for a company, if they're going to lay you off next month or whatever. I've been through layoffs before. It's not fun.
Yeah, I gotta let go too.
Yeah, you
It's
can't.
terrifying.
Well, and something else I was thinking about is not only, I mean, if you're buying out your spouse, you're not just taking over the current mortgage, you're taking on the mortgage plus whatever you're pulling from the equity to buy them out. So your
Yeah.
mortgage is increasing, therefore increasing the payment. I mean, you're looking at paying more than what you are currently. And so it's just,
Yeah, you're right. Everybody thinks, oh, it's
situation.
only 3,000. I'll get that in child support now. I mean, they don't realize that you're rolling in more to pay him out. There's way bigger pictures to this.
Right.
Yeah. Anytime you're borrowing more money, your payment's going to go up ridiculous. I mean, regardless
Well,
of.
and with interest rates being high, you're also the new interest rate. Everyone's like, oh, I want to keep my house, but I want to keep the same interest rate. Well, that's like,
Yeah,
I
it
want
doesn't
to
look
live
like that.
in the mountains. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen very rare.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, if you happen to get divorced in 2021, is probably a great time. You were coming from a 6% down to 3%, but now we're going the other way. You bought the house 3%, now you're going to 6%. Well, now your mortgage just doubled in interest rate, and now if you're buying out the spouse, you're giving them an equity. Yeah, it makes it a lot harder to qualify. And we've seen that challenges for a lot of people. And like, hey, I want to keep my rate. Like, well, unfortunately, unless you're doing an assumption that you're not keeping the rate, and then there's no money coming out of the home. So how are you going to do that? So.
Yeah, everybody says that. We used to hear that a lot, especially when rates
First,
skyrocketed. We heard it all the time.
oh yeah. First, when it was they just locked in.
They were like 7. Everyone's
I
like, I don't want to do that. I'm like,
we've talked to me and Amber probably talking personally to clients. I got a 2.875. I got a 3.2. I got a this. I got that. I'm like, okay, well, great.
no, you did have that.
you have it, but you probably can't keep it.
Keep it, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it does stink, but it's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, here's the other thing about, if you are selling the home, like, freeing up some of that cash to pay off some of those debts, or maybe potentially funding some of that retirement or getting some of the retirement money, that is definitely something to do with getting that lump sum to make you feel like, I think, when I went through my divorce, I went from, basically, I'm not a big spender myself. I don't spend a lot of money myself, but I went from like, all the money going to the house and the kids and all stuff like that. And even though I was paying child support, I was debt free. I got debt free at the time, post divorce, fortunately. And I moved from a house that I was no longer mine to I just renting. So the renting gave me the ability to save money. And so I was actually, even though I'd gone through the divorce and I'd only had half the assets walking away, I had very little money out of the house coming out of the house. I was still able, from my income, even though 25% of it was going for child support, and I was paying rent and all that stuff. But from a cash flow perspective, I actually felt richer than I had felt in probably 10 plus years, because it was just my cash wasn't going to debts anymore. Really, I didn't have any debts. My car was paid for. I didn't have a house anymore. I was just paying rent. And so I was actually, I was putting money in the 401k, putting money in HSA, and, funding the retirement account a little bit. And actually, that's what I actually got into real estate later on, because I started saving money. I was like, hey, how much can I save? Right. I kind of played the game of how much can I save? And what am I going to do with it? When you save money up, you can't just let it sit in an account. So what are you going to do with it? So like, let's go invest in some real estate. And then after a couple of years, I actually ran into this girl right here. La di da.
All for saving money.
All because I was saving money, investing in real estate. But it can be important to.
There's nothing wrong with renting, everybody.
No, I think too.
I think a lot of people are like, ugh. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a stepping stone to get to the next thing anyway. So you eventually get where you need to be. And let me just say, I've had a lot of people squander too about apartments. There are some cute apartments that are nicer than houses and have yards. There's some over here, and these people have a trampoline in their little yard. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, they're
When
nice.
something breaks, you just call the landlord.
No, it's the best. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my AC doesn't work. Okay, well, I'll send someone out. Yeah,
Right.
I had to pay new AC as a single mom. It was like $8,000. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Things happen. You better be prepared. You better have that money sacked and like put away, because things break.
Yeah.
For sure. And you own a home.
And you only got one income now, right? So it's like, it's like there's a lot less income coming in, and a lot more potentially going out to keep that big house as part of the divorce. So, it's not just the mortgage. You got the tax, insurance, and then obviously one of the biggest things we should talk a lot about was maintenance, ongoing maintenance. You know, on a home,
Yeah.
usually say the 1% rule is pretty good on maintenance wise. Like, you know, you might not do it every year, but you
That's true.
you don't replace the roof every year, but when it does come around, that's a big chunk of money.
Or the AC or hot water heaters or a plumbing issue. I had that too. I was leaving town and all the sinks backed up and filled up. I was like, oh my gosh, that was another thing.
Oh, when I was renting, you know, the water heater starts leaking. Hey man, that thing's leaking. Oh, I just call the landlord real quick right here, and they just take care of that problem,
Yeah.
right? It's not my, you know, $1,200, you know, currently probably now $1,500 problem for a water heater, whenever something like that breaks. But I think we're getting close to wrapping it up here. As far as I think this is a good first show, as far as going live, obviously.
Okay. All right.
Obviously, this will be I'll put it out on the webs and maybe edit it later to, you know, offer for somebody. But anything you guys else want to bring to the conversation that I did not talk about, or anything you guys are just feeling off the cuff here?
I can't think of anything right now.
Covered a lot. Lending.
It's playing in the background. Down tempo. Just playing around now. Okay. Amber says, let's get out of here. So no more Q&A questions because nobody showed up for us today, unfortunately. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, maybe it's not a good time.
Dinner time.
You know,
I'm
if
hungry.
you can, yeah, maybe everyone's eating dinner right now. Maybe it's a horrible time.
Well, and also a big day in the news. I figured
Yeah,
that
I
would
was
affect
going to
us
say
too.
that too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is probably that we didn't plan this, obviously, with the idea that, you know, we didn't know somebody was going to get shot today, so we didn't, unfortunately. Yeah, not the best time to be trying us to do this, but you know, we got to do it when we made a plan. So appreciate Amber and Alyssa showing up today for our shrimps. It's not just a Scotty show anymore.
You're always so knowledgeable. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, Scotty, and your calculators. He's a calculator.
Those are a big help.
We're actually working on one, you know, for refinances too, but I'll not finish yet. But be the next one.
There's like 17 of them on our website, by the way. www.thegiftforgroup.com, tab calculators. There's tons. Anything you need to calculate, we got you.
If you don't have it, just let me know.
We'll make it.
BMI on there, but let's do that.
No. Oh my God.
How long am I going to live here? Actuary tables. Anyway, so thanks for anyone that watched and came to. And if you're watching this back live again later or re-streaming it later, I appreciate you guys for watching. Reach out to us with any questions. And as always, we're here to bring you real life experience to all your
real estate needs.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you.